What's up? Howdy. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a new guest, Mr. Mark. What's your last name, Mark?
Mark Tupas.
Tupas. Well, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Mark. Mark's a personal trainer. Make sure that guy stays real nice and close to the face if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So you can pull that guy.
Okay. We'll do this. Can I do that?
Sit down. Yeah,
I
relax.
like to lay back. I like to lay
Beautiful.
back.
And then just make sure you stay lined up with that little thing
Okay.
there. So Mark is a personal trainer here in town, right? We're working with or a coach here in town. It sounds like we work a lot with fighters, yeah?
That's one of my niche. Yeah, I work with all kinds of peoples, man. People from all walks of life. You know what I mean? My oldest client is 88.
Damn.
And I work with young people too, youth athletes, and just pretty much anybody that wants to get active in life. You know.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
What was your? Why'd you start? How'd you get started?
You know, my background is fighting. I fought professionally, MMA. I turned professional in Hawaii, moved to California, LA, and then I ended up in Vegas, the fight capital of the world. And I was in that already transition phase where, you know, okay, is fighting for me? Shall I continue doing this? Or I have to find something that's, you know, more viable or per se, like financially wise.
Yeah.
So I got into fitness. I was one of them. I could, you know, proudly say I was one of those MMA fighters that slowly transitioned to becoming, I guess you could say, a fitness trainer, a coach, or, you know, and I first got into it by my strength and conditioning coach at that time. He's like, hey, man, you can make extra money on the side while you fight. Because, you know, I mean, as far as I know, a lot of fighters don't make money,
Yeah, it's
especially
hard.
if just starting off. Any athletes,
It's
not
hard
just
to make
fighters.
money as a fighter, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
And then at that point, were you working at early on in the career? I mean, since you have a lot of experience inside of the fighting world, at that point, are you working mainly with fighters? What gym are you training at here in town?
So I train out of Sin City Iron right now.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's on Windmill and Eastern. But my background throughout the whole training, I started with Amaza Fitness. You know, Ian Amaza. I was working over there as an independent contractor. And then throughout that whole thing, I kind of bounced around trying to figure it out like an entrepreneur. You know, we all trying to figure it out. I jumped from gym to gym and working out of EOS, LVAC, at people's houses.
Yeah.
And then by the grace of God, I opened up my own gym. So I owned my own gym for about 6.5 years. I was a co-owner for 3, and I owned it. I just kind of took over. It was me, my wife, and took over for 2.5 years. I just recently let it go, beginning of 2023. I mean, ending of 2023. So 2024, I was at Sin City Iron.
What was that journey like buying a gym? Like, why'd you start? Why'd you end up? I mean, that's a really awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
Why did you buy the gym? And then how did you transition to not just being a co-owner, but then a full owner and then selling?
Man, it was a crazy journey because, to be honest, I was in the brink of like my career was going down the drain. You could say, you know, I was in a 4-fight losing streak, and I was like, okay, it's time to think of something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's time to think of another venture in life that, you know, we could be successful in. And I was gonna go back to Hawaii, man. And I was at church. I was on my way out, and at that time, one of my clients, I was like his strength and conditioning coach. He's like, hey, man, I'm opening up a spot out here, and I would like you to check it out. But I didn't think any of it. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I heard that from so many people. Opportunities come and go, man. So I didn't think any of it. I was already locked in and going back to Hawaii and looking at myself like to rebuild. And a week later, he's like, yo, bro, I got the keys. And then, I said, okay, well, we'll check it out. I still didn't think any of it. I guess you could say I got let down so many times in my life that I didn't really want to put myself in that expectation. You know what I mean? So, and then he's like, oh, I got the keys. And then he went from that to like, hey, yo, I want you to manage the gym. And then I started managing the gym. And then I was like, yo, so currently I can't be full-time here because I have clients. You know what I mean? I'm going like people's houses and stuff like that. I'm training them out of the apartments and stuff like that, condos. And he said, yo, bro, you could bring them here. So throughout that whole thing, it kind of worked out because it seems like I was failing, but at the same time, I'm getting this opportunity. And by the looks of it in front of my clients, I'm like, man, he's growing as a coach, as a trainer. He's, you know, expanding. So that was the start of it. And then they didn't really good. They had a partnership at that time. It was him and another guy. And then me and that guy ended up clicking. So he ended up putting me in as like a co-manager, I guess you say, but I had like the label or credential as a co-owner.
Very nice.
Then, yeah, man.
That's a pretty cool. That's a pretty cool fucking existence. Even though, I mean, it sounds like it didn't feel like you were making moves in the right direction, but like on paper, you definitely were.
Yeah, and you know what? It taught me. To me, experience is everything, right? And it taught me so much about business that I didn't know, and it taught me so much about people. It taught me so much about the journey of life that it was like, man, this is getting interesting. And at first, I didn't take it seriously. You know what I mean? I was still young. You know what I mean? I was under 30 and I'm 36 now, so it's been a while, but I was still on my phase where like I was still partying and doing all the nonsense stuff. I was trying to figure out life still, you know what I mean? So, but because of me leaping into that journey, even though I wasn't ready, it taught me so much, man. And it taught me to open up my own, you know what I mean? And I pivoted so much from that point on. Like it was a bodybuilding approach at first. It was like just like a normal gym that it was maybe pretty much similar to what I'm working at right now, like Sin City Iron. Just one of those like key fob, like you come in, work out on your own, you get a gym membership. And then I pivoted from that to kind of like a CrossFit, more functional style. And then I added like bags in the back with a turf, and we ended up getting like an X rack. It was more like, I put on like circuit training in there. And then from then I pivoted again into my own, that's another story.
What is that story? What is that? Yeah.
It's more like, I kind of tapped in back into what I was in love with, you know what I mean? The strength and conditioning aspect, which is now kind of people calling it in social media as like hybrid training. I kind of like told everybody on my client, everybody that I meet now, trainers, like, man, I've been on this thing from way back. I just didn't put like a name to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and I believe a lot of MMA fighters and a lot of like athletes that train different aspects of the sport, I feel like that's the real definition of hybrid training, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to diss what they're doing now with like, is it called High Rocks or something?
High Rocks.
Yeah, it's like a new CrossFit competition. But
there's Grid League. I know about that.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's like, is there like a DECA or something like that?
DECA's a thing. I don't even know what DECA is.
I think there's like High Rocks now. I think it's called High Rocks.
I guess I'm gonna have to do some research after this. I have no idea what the fuck High Rocks is.
Yeah, man. So, you know, and I never thought of that. I always thought about fitness as like, how can I better myself so I can better help people? So I never really look at it as like credential-wise. I never look at it as like, okay, I'm part of this cult or group of people. Like I'm not a part of CrossFit. I'm not a part of this. I'm not a part of that. I just want to help people become better in movement, become better in health, become better in their just personal development, you know what I'm saying? So I looked at fitness as like a catalyst, I guess you could say, to doing better at everything else you want to do good in.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think that, you know, it gives you the opportunity to like go through challenge, have accountability, work on yourself, kind of look in the mirror and say, okay, is this, you know, am I really going toward, what are even my goals? Like, I haven't even thought about my goals.
Right.
And so it kind of sounds like you're taking the place where you can kind of guide someone through all of those questions, yeah?
Yeah, like a life coach, you know what I mean? So like, you know, I mean, I've been there, you know, I used to recognize myself as a personal trainer or a fitness trainer, and then slowly you're evolving to this coach, and slowly you evolve to this lifestyle coach, or I guess you could say like a mentor, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So then what is your process like whenever you get a new client? Like how do you attack like item by item as you work with somebody new?
You speaking about like onboarding stuff?
Yeah.
So right off the back, I already tell them like I involve like kind of my life to it and how I became this person that I am. And I said, are you interested in doing this? Because these are the process that we're going to take, you know what I mean? And by that, I have to ask, like, you have to be ready to take on these challenges. And it's not going to be easy. You're not going to just walk in and hire me and all of a sudden I'm going to be some miraculous thing that you're just going to transform. It's going to take work. It's going to take a lot of commitment and sacrifice on your end. And unfortunately, you're going to have to follow like my instructions and stuff like that in order to get the results. It's not like you pay me and all of a sudden, it's like a surgery. Surgery is different than a health and wellness journey or a personal fitness journey. You know what I mean? It's like it takes work from both sides.
100%. It definitely is. It takes
and
a
you
good
know that.
client. Yeah, it takes a good client. It takes a good coach, right? Like you can create good programs all day, but if that client's just like, I don't really feel like doing like most of it or like these 3 days, and then like months later they're like, hey man, I'm not making progress. It's like, well, did you do all the workouts?
Right.
Did you follow the diet? Did you do all these things?
Exactly.
No? Well, then like, what'd you think was going to happen?
Yeah. And I mean, there's, I've been in the industry now for quite a while. I mean, enough to know the difference. There's those trainers that go hard on onboarding. They have like boundaries and they train certain people and whatever works for you. Like I said, to me, I got into this because fitness has been a good thing that happened for me. I think it was one of those, it saved my life kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I want people to experience that. I want people to use fitness as a catalyst to be a better business owner, to be a better entrepreneur, to be a better dad, to be a better mom, to be a better friend. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of looked at it, I'm kind of getting chills, but I'm looking at it more like on a spiritual journey aspect, I guess you could say, you know what I mean?
A beautiful sound of some beautiful nutcase milk, some cashew chocolate milk. I remember being a kid and I would throw up every single time I would have chocolate milk. And I didn't really understand why. And then I realized I am very lactose intolerant. And thankfully, Nutcase has allowed me the opportunity to drink some lactose-free chocolate milk, which I very much so enjoy. Their stuff just tastes amazing. The texture's great. And then also whenever we're in school, they talk to us about making sure you have a pretty high glycemic index or glycemic index food after you finish your workout. And what does Nutcase exactly do? That. And so one of the textbook things was to do is to always have a chocolate milk and a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Make sure you guys go check out Nutcase. They are amazing. How did it fulfill that for you? Like in your journey, like it's because I think being a fighter, there's a lot of ups and downs, especially, so like having that fallback for fitness was kind of like, it sounds like the thing that you had for you that kept you kind of going.
I don't know if you heard this, but man, fighting is a lot of fighters, the ecosystem of it, I think it builds a lot of unstable mental people, man. Like you gotta have like a few like loose screws in your head to be even to go in a cage and fight another individual. But it brought me a lot of highs and lows. And it got me to some crazy personal downs and depressions, you know what I mean? So I'm like, how do I get out of this? How do I take a hold of something positive and get something positive out of it?
Yeah.
And not be in a victim mentality and that's where fitness comes. You have to challenge yourself in a sense where I know this is hard. I know some days I don't feel like doing it, but I have to continually to pursue this journey, the pursuit of acquiring something that's going to be helpful and that gives you confidence, you know what I mean? So throughout the day, it just becomes feasible. It becomes viable. You going through that hardships each time and like, hey man, life is no difference. You know what I'm saying? It's never going to be easy. Struggles and trials and tribulations is inevitable. And same thing as fitness. But now fitness, it has a dividends to give you back good things. You got good health. You got good physique. You're going to feel more confident, better energy, you know what I mean? Better sleep, better whatever. It all depends how deep you get into this rabbit hole, you know what I mean?
You can get very deep into the rabbit hole. I feel like there is a clear almost representation of fitness and then in life. Like you're going to constantly face challenges.
Yes.
You're going to ask for help. There's people around you that are good people, maybe people that are around you that aren't the most helpful.
Yes.
And then you just learn more about yourself. You can develop this confidence and then like being able to do a clean and jerk for the first time. Like
right.
It feels different. Like, oh shit, I've been trying to do this for months and finally I'm here. Maybe even just get up off the ground and now I'm here and this feels good and I can move my body. And then now what else does this allow me to do? Now maybe I can, play with my kids a little bit more. Maybe I can do more things at work, right?
Right.
Like it opens up an entire like plethora of opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's that saying that you don't get old by moving less or something like that. I forgot what the quote is, but
I don't know.
It was something like you don't get old by. It was I totally forgot what it is, but I can tell you later. It was kind of something crazy, but that's what it is, right? People tend to be like, "Oh, age. I'm old because of my age," but I don't know what it is. If I remember it later on, I'll say it again. But it's like
you got to move.
You have to move, man. So I think like fitness is one of those things. Like as you continue on to move, you get to like get into this phase where like, oh man, I couldn't do these before and I could do it now and I'm feeling better. And that gives you confidence to keep going, you know what I mean? And then you're going to experience bad things, kind of like life, you know what I mean? And then that's when you like take the good and you go with it, and then the bad and you forget about it and you just keep going. Like everybody's different, you know what I'm saying?
One of my favorite things is watching people really take hold of the opportunity to be in fitness, and at the same time, what frustrates me, knowing the opportunity that's in front of somebody whenever they walk into the gym, and then they just show up maybe with either a bad attitude, or like they just don't want to commit to it, even though they know inside of themselves that's something they want to do. I'm like, please, like just do the work, and like you'll feel better. I promise you. Just show up once or twice a week. I understand that some people, you know, maybe 3 times a week or 4 times a week is a lot for somebody. But even that one time a week, like it starts off this really cool domino effect where you're like, oh man, I'm feeling really good after my first workout. Like I might show up for day 2, you know? And so whenever I have those clients, I like part of me just want to shake somebody. Like, come on, man, just come once, you know?
I was just talking about that before I came here. Honestly, I like to talk to on my phone and give like motivational speeches and stuff like that. But I was just telling people, like, we're going into that transition where a lot of people that was on the edge or have thoughts of starting their health and fitness journey or whatever, but are on the edge because some of them are so busy, right? I often hear this excuse. I'm not trying to stereotype people, but you know who you are, and you've had these thoughts in your head before. Like, I already have a busy schedule. I'm a busy dad. I'm a busy mom. I have multiple jobs or this and that. If I get into fitness or I put fitness into my schedule, it's going to be detrimental to my other ventures of life and I'm going to be too exhausted. But I always tell people this, man, like throughout my whole journey, I've never got into something positive and it gave me a positive effect. I mean, a negative effect, I could say, not a positive effect. Like, meaning like I've never done something good for myself and then it was detrimental towards my journey. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about instant gratification stuff, but like things like fitness, you know what I'm saying?
Reading more books is not necessarily gonna like put you in a bad spot. It's gonna take more time for you. But like if I read books about organization or time management, it's ultimately going to help me like long term understand, maybe I don't get to spend like I'm 30 minutes reading with my kid and then 30 minutes reading with myself versus like the hour I spend with them, but like I can get 30 minutes that's ultimately going to make those other times that I have with my individuals a lot more fruitful.
Yes, and some people, especially the ones that had never gotten into fitness journey, they have those thoughts to where like, man, if I get into training consistently 3 days a week, I'm going to be exhausted and I'm not going to be able to play with my kids, or I'm not going to be able to function the way I should at work because I got these aches and pains. But if you never take that journey to get over that phase of where you're hurting, you know what I mean? You just it'll probably take 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or even 6 weeks for some, you know what I mean? But once you get over that hump and you feel good, man, you have more energy to play with your kids. Your cognitive function gets better and you can think better at work. And I've trained businesses, like their employees and everything like that, to where they're functioning better at work. They're getting better returns. You know what I mean?
It's scientifically proven. If you move more, you're going to operate better. Like,
but we're programmed to think like, okay, I'm adding work, so I'm going to be exhausted and I'm not going to function the same at work. But like I said, it's giving you that negative effect at first, and then you get scared, right? But initially, if you keep going and you overcome that phase, bro, sky's the limit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think like I was just talking with a client a little while ago. I was talking to Tyus a little while ago about like having, you know, the like being sore inside of the arms and how like right now that's not necessarily like great, and how that can like deter somebody from like this hurts. Like why would I want to go back to the gym? But you know, as the more you do it, the better you get at it. And then now we're working on different systems, and now we have more ability, and so now your work capacity has grown so much over, you know, X amount of weeks or months that you're just like, man, I could do like 10 of these pull-ups versus you know 5 months ago I couldn't even do one. And like, what does that mean for the rest of your life? Well, that means you could probably do, you know, maybe not just one meeting a day, but you can do 3 meetings a day. Exactly. And so now your productivity in business has increased significantly. You know, it's the same game. Right.
And you just your neurons starts to fire in different ways. You know what I mean? The pathways. You just, I don't know. When you experience something new, you're like, whoa. What else? What else is out there? You know what I mean? So like I said, man, I think as humans, we tend to get into like instant gratification, right? That things that make us feel good for the moment, but has no good returns for the long run. You know what I mean? So that's why I always challenge people, man. I said, get into something that'll challenge you and has good returns.
What are you doing right now to help challenge you?
I never stop training, man. Like I still run, you know, I still do my system, my own program to myself. I hit pads here and there. I still train martial arts and stuff like that. You know, I should be reading more books, but at the end of the day, you know what I mean, my spiritual journey, I do read the Bible. So, you know what I mean? I don't really have different other aspect of like reading. I'm reading this book right now, personal growth books, but you know, I read the Bible, not trying to get all religious to it, but you know, it's more a relationship to me.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to think about me as well. It's like, okay, what am I doing to help challenge myself? And I think, you know, part of it's the podcast, part of it's business. There's other areas of opportunity to allow for challenge in a controlled environment, right? And so like the gym is a really awesome place to start practicing that, and then ultimately you're like, okay, now let me practice that in in my family life or like whatever's going on at home. How can I still have challenge in there that's ultimately beneficial for the relationship? Right. Maybe having those hard conversations, or you know, like telling your kid, no, you can't have sugar, even though you know they're crying about it, they're throwing a tantrum. It's like, I'm sorry, you know, this is what it is. It's a challenge, but ultimately it's a controlled challenge that allows for a benefit.
Right. And like I said, I use fitness, you know, as like my catalyst to get better at everything that I do. Yeah, I'm a married man now. I got a family. I got 3 princesses, my wife. I'm just happy. I'm just happy that I have a wife that we're on a similar path in life. You know what I mean? She wants to better her thinking. She wants to better her the way she do things in life. She wants to better her health. She wants to be a better mom, better husband, a better wife. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, those challenges, man, it's good. Like good challenges like that. Like you said, hard conversation. Me and my wife, we always have hard conversation, but it helps us grow. You know, as a couple, as parents, as individual, as business people, and it gives you those hard truths that, okay, I'm lacking in this area, I have to work on it. But I always tell myself, man, whenever you have a bad day, go for a walk, go for a run, go for a workout. You know what I mean? As soon as we go out that door, we never know what we might run into. Like I said, now you're facing the world. You know what I mean? So go and invest in yourself first. It totally changes your mood, man. Nowadays, I try to like say hi to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what's up, man? Like, hey, how you doing? Even if I don't know them, even if I don't get like a hi back, you know what I mean? I just try to practice that now because I know that's something good. Like I said, when you do something positive, rarely you'll get something negative. And even if you get something negative, you won't have a negative response. You know what I mean? You can't fight fire with fire. You know what I'm saying? So it's better to fight fire with good. So I try to exercise that, man. And I think those are the things that I'm learning nowadays. And I'm slowly transitioning in my fitness journey as well. You know, you look back in your journey. It's been 6.5 years, 7 years. You look at your journey where you started. Now this is coming into like how you program your clients, what kind of exercises you're providing them. So like now I'm evolving to like different thinking. I guess you could say people would always say, you got to think outside the box, man. I think I'm on that point where now I want to break the box. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
I don't want the box to be there at all. I want to be open with my thinking. I think when I first got into it, I was more of like I said, a bodybuilding approach. You know what I mean? Like, let's grow muscle, like mechanical tension, progressive loading. You know what I mean? Now I want to get deep into it, kind of like a doctor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I want to go more deep into it, into some like, I want to like mitochondrial health. You know what I mean? Like cellular adaptation, molecular responses and expressions and stuff. And how do I get there? How do I change somebody's skeletal structure? How do I change somebody's cell to respond and be stimuli in a different way that it'll change their movement, it'll change their skin tone, it'll change their heart health, and it'll prevent them from having cancer or different type of diseases throughout their life, you know what I mean? And I believe that's possible. Knowing I come from the Western, I guess, approach, you could say. And then now I kind of want to get out of that and be like, yo, I want to be one of these biohackers. I want to be one of these fitness gurus, scientists, you could say. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand very much.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely get it.
Insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right? So like throughout the journey, I wouldn't say you're looking at it as a failure, but you're looking at it like, man, if I keep doing this, I'm going to keep getting the same results. So how am I going to evolve myself and get to these next level, man? Like this is going to be my thing. And then it goes back to my foundation. I want to help people, and I want to help people more to not get into hospitals. I want to help people to not get cancer. I want to help people to move effectively and efficiently so that they can improve their daily life and not grow old at 70, not grow old at 80, not grow old at 90. I don't know. I think anything is possible at this point. You know what I mean?
Overall, extending the quality of life as they continue to age.
Yeah.
So what are you doing right now that is, I guess, like the beginnings of those more nuanced items? Like, how are you helping people, develop mitochondrial health, for example, or training like our neurological system for, better improved, quality of life?
And that all came along when I took on my journey of opening up my own gym. I had more freedom. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have structure. I guess you could say I took structure out and I threw it out the window. And there was structure still in there because obviously at the end of the day, you have to make people happy and you have to give them what they want. And I'm still kind of in a verge of that. Like, yo, I don't want to be so egotistical, I guess you could say, like, this is what it is, and you're going to do this. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's what doctors do. You go into a hospital or an appointment when you're sick, you're not going to say, yo, I'm not taking that. The doctor say, no, you're taking this 3 times a week and get back to me if you feel good or not. Yeah. I want to be like that. You know what I mean? I want to be like, yo, if you want to get better, we're going to do it this way, and you're going to do it 3 times a week, 5 times a week, and this is how we're going to do it. And I'm kind of transitioning on that, and it started when I had the gym. But I told my wife, like, it's kind of hard because when you're in business, you still kind of want to make money, right?
Yeah.
And you look at the world, and you're like, what makes money? So you get influenced by that. So at the end of the day, I never fully got out of that thinking, I guess. I still had a structured 6 a.m. group class. And it was still structured as circuit training, HIIT style bays, and you know what I mean?
Classic,
Yeah, so same thing. Like when you go to anything, like, you know what I mean? Like hypertrophy, I still kind of looked at all of that, like power, strength, metcon, metabolic conditioning, you know what I mean? I still look at that aspect as is. And then now I have more freedom because I don't have to cover overhead. I'm just paying, I'm not saying I'm paying this small price compared to what I was paying, but yes, I have like a little bit more financial freedom now to be like, hey, if this doesn't work, I'm not sacrificing so much of my finances.
Yeah.
So I have more freedom to kind of like experiment. So now, bro, I have clients that literally go in and it's like we're just having conversation. And then we're going through exercises and we're repeating that exercises the whole hour. I want to even get out of that one day of like, hey, my rates is this for an hour. No, I want to get to a point, and I hate to involve always like income or rates with it, right? But I want to involve one day like, hey, I'm not an hourly rate. I'm gonna get you better rate.
Yeah.
Like I'm cost $25,000, $30,000, but you're stuck with me for a year, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna work together. Whether it's your nutrition, whether it's your lifestyle, whether it's your psychological responses, how you handle stress, you know what I mean? What do you do that is being detrimental to your life? Like I want to take addictions, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I want to transition and shift that towards a focus where it's going to give you that compound effect of positivity. You know what I'm saying?
It definitely sounds like a lifestyle coach with an emphasis, or using fitness as kind of the main driver, the main vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Which I think there's definitely a market for, and I think that you can definitely charge something like that, because
it's
you're extending somebody's quality of life,
right,
for the rest of their lives, whether they work with you for a year or 2 years. At the end of the day, like, they will see benefits for the rest of their existence just because of that initial investment for the first 1 or 2 years.
Right.
And I think realistically, it does take more time. Like, you're not going to see a hell of a lot of results in 6 months. You'll see some, don't get me wrong, but fitness again is measured in years. Like, you look at these athletes and they're competing maybe as a professional athlete, but how long did it really take them to get to look like that and to compete at that level with that kind of skill? It took them like almost a lot of people their entire lives.
Right.
And so it's a journey, and like, as long as you have somebody that's right by your side that's kind of guiding you along the way, it's very, very valuable.
Yeah. And like I said, it comes with experience, right? And at the end of the day, like, you learn that doing this certain things, like I've had like clients that came to me with knee pain. Like, they had either like a cyst or like meniscus, ACL, MCL problems, and they're runners, and they'd be like, hey, I have a surgery scheduled in 3 weeks. And I'm like, look, I'm no doctor, man. I'm no doctor of PT. You know what I mean? Or physical therapy or whatever, but let's do it, man. Let me try and help you out. And I never help these people with, I guess you could say, like a Western approach of like educational steps that has been taught for years in college and makes you become a physical therapy. I help heal these people by biohacking, by doing things outside of the box, you know what I'm saying? But and how do I do that? By doing movements in multi-planes, you know what I'm saying? By having more stimuli in the nervous system, going into like parasympathetic and sympathetic, mechanotransduction, like, you know what I mean? Now we're diving deeper, more into like the inner aspects of it instead of just like aesthetic, physical aspect. Now you're diving deeper into like neurological connection, physiological connections, you know what I mean? And what it kind of like activates when you do these certain movements. And bro, believe it or not, man, but I have testimonies of people not needing surgery after a while. I have had testimonies of people walking and was getting diagnosed with like, yo, you're gonna be in a wheelchair, and being able to stand up and do a lot more like fast twitch activity. And I always tell people that you can't be dependent to like devices like that. Like, I feel like the Western, you know what I mean? I sound like I'm talking crap, but I feel like the Western medicine is all profiteering. If it's a profiteering business, that they recommend you to have this so you can be dependent to that, but that causes more issues along the road. They never really like focus on the healing of the whole thing. They just give you like a patch or a Band-Aid, but that Band-Aid gives you more issues that they're gonna profit with again along the road. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I want to become one of those coaches or those trainers that, hey, man, I want to help you, but I don't want you to be my trainer for life. I want you to get out and help more people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then where do you get that information? Like, what are you studying in order to gain these skills?
So I tapped into it, like I said, when I opened up my own gym. In the middle of COVID, I took a trip down in California. I tapped into my boy, Brainstorm Fitness, George Anthony. And I tapped in with the whole people, Junior Leosu, David Weck of Weck Method. He was the creator of Bozu Ball. Alex Canellis, he's the creator of Landmine University. And we're all just surrounded by this Pacific Beach trainer. Junior Leosu owned it. It was like a gym where the creators and inventors, Mauricio, the inventor of HydroCore, of the bag, a HydroCore bag. It's like a Bulgarian bag, but with water. And they're just all into these outside of the box thinking, like unconventional thinking of fitness. And that place was like a place where you invent something and you go there to test it out. And you go there and kind of like talk about like, hey, what do you want? What do you want? I'm trying to accomplish this. I'm trying, you start talking about appropriate. I've been on the journey of like barefoot now for like going into 3 years.
Yeah.
Well, I don't own any shoes. I actually sold all my other shoes, bro.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And
are you not wearing shoes right now?
No, I'm wearing my barefoot shoes.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not full on, like I said, I'm not full on like hippie, you know what I mean? But that was kind of like the first initiation of this whole thinking. And I'm like, man, these people, bro, that's crazy. And that was when I got introduced to training in multi-planes. But I was like, dude, I've always done this. Fighting is multi-planes, bro. Yeah. Sagittal, frontal, you know what I mean? Transverse, like, but and then Alex Canellis would preach to us that how he created Landmine University, which is spinal engine theory, you know what I'm saying? How to move, how to exercise and moving with your spine, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it'll all go back to having the gait cycle, which is like the SAID principles, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, how is it going to relate from the gym to the mat, from the gym to the field, from the gym to the court, from the gym to the ring? It all goes back to that. And he's like, man, I have master's degree in exercise science. I have all these credentials, but I never really fully got to help an individual become fully better. You know what I mean? And he said, I started helping someone when I started thinking outside the box. And they were starting to add all those things, like the SAID principle, the multi-planes, you know what I mean?
For people that don't know, what is the SAID principle? How could I install my own shutters? I've never done this before. No problem. They're meaningful measuring and installation guides, as well as the team at theshutterstore.com are there to help you. I ended up going with the wood grain shutter. I thought they were amazing. It helps me sleep better at night because it makes it so dark in my room, which also means it keeps it cooler in my room day to day. So we know that bills can get high, especially an electrical bill. So we want to make sure that we keep those guys nice and closed throughout the day. But then you have the option to open them up, and they also look absolutely gorgeous. You'll get a dedicated representative to work with you to get 3 different points of data just so you can get some good measurements. And then we get those measurements, send them out to the representative, and then you'll have, in no time, a really nice set of shutters. Don't let your windows be an afterthought. Get started today at theshutterstore.com.
I can't get it off the top of my head.
That's all right. I think it's like
something demand.
I can't remember other, but it's like some specific adaptable something.
Some adaptation in demand. Let me search it, bro.
All right, there you go. Jamie. Young Jamie. If one day we'll have a young Jamie. That'd be
specific
wild.
Adaptation to impose demands.
There you go.
Yeah.
Specific adaptations to impose demands.
Yeah.
And then I really like the WEC method. I really like David or the spinal engine theory, which I think
is
originally,
the coil. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was introduced to it a couple years ago by a friend in Texas, and he hosted a seminar, and I was like, this makes real sense. Like, all things originate from the spine. Mm-hmm. And so learning how to rotate around the spine or use the spine to initiate movement is like, well, yeah, no shit, right? Yeah. And then if I'm originating things, or if I'm staying conscious of what's going on around my spine, and maybe it doesn't make sense, but maybe it does in my head. Yeah. I'm focusing on what is happening neurologically as well, right? And so I have to really, really think about the connection from my from the spine all the way down to my hip, right? Yeah. Or to my foot whenever I'm having that rotation. So I think that there's a lot of value to it. And I really enjoy being introduced to it.
Yeah, man. I think, like, my wife is a chiropractor, so she believes in, like, spine is like the life. Spine is like the connection which sends signals, right? Like neurological connection. You know about neuroplasticity and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You can, no matter how age, you can create new pathways. You know what I mean? You get into new things, and it creates that new neuron connection. So, and proprioception, like knowing how your limb moves and stuff like that. So, and that all makes sense, man. If you look at your daily life, you move in different planes of motion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like going back to what Alex Canella said, when it comes to, I have a master's degree in exercise science, he was like, man, this is so outdated. And it's just being taught over and over and over again at a collegiate. People graduate. And the only people that fully become successful at what they do are the ones who start to think outside of the box. You know what I mean? They learn the foundation, but they're doing something else to make it better. They stack it with something. You know what I mean? So, and what he was saying is like, the reason why he created Landmine University, and it's pretty much like a clean and jerk. but not in like a bilateral approach, which is, it has shin angles, you know what I mean? It has forward intent, it has rotational intent, it has core-driven movement. It has the basic progressive load. It has the basic progression. What is it? I forgot the principle already. It's position before transition.
Position before transition.
So like, before you transition to the next move, you have to make sure that you have the right leverage, you have the right footing. You know, it's pretty much, don't rush. Don't just rush and just explode into it. Like, you have to focus on technique. Not only that, he was a strength and conditioning coach in Iowa, high school, I think. And he even must have got into collegiate wrestling and stuff like that. But from his experience, he wanted to develop a new functional explosive strength system that was easier to teach, and even to the youth, and wasn't as, I guess, injury prone, you could say. Like, it was more safer, effective, and efficient. And that's why he created Landmine University. But it was far beyond that, man. That system alone is connected to the WEC method, which is, you know, a lot of like coiling, you know, short side of the spine, long side of the spine. And just me diving into that, and me kind of like basing a lot of like my foundation, which is my normal bilateral approach, but I put like coiling into it. It made it more like less aggravating if people had something like a pain in their body. It made their body nervous system open up more, you know what I mean? And I believe it was like a key point to me, like meeting those people.
I think bilateral is important, but at the same time, having unilateral movement, having rotational force, having these demands on the body that ultimately will, like, you know, getting out of the bed requires rotation, right? And so, like, long term, I want to make sure that I want to have the mobility for that, because that's one thing that we'll lose as we get older. But then if I can apply some force in that that plane, then ultimately I have more power in that plane. So if I need to, you know, if I do fall, then I know exactly, you know, how to catch myself, or I reduce my risk for injury.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of benefits to having both unilateral movements and then also in different planes as well.
And I think that's where he kind of like tapped into something, because, you know, we're in this generation where everybody wants to call functional, but I think some functional exercises lack that mechanical tension. You know what I mean? So Alex Canellis, I think, and the WEC method guys, I think they tend to have more of that, like progressive load, and you could still experience that increasing of the weight feeling, like that hypertrophy feeling, but move in the movement that you're supposed to move.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, man. I don't look down on anything. Like, I still do bilateral movements.
Yeah.
Because I believe that that's the best way to get hypertrophy. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree.
You know what I mean? Like,
what's your purpose, right? And there's phases for all of these different things. So like, I can definitely, you know, I can do my clean and jerks both and a bilateral movement. But then if I have a fighter, and yes, I want to increase overall power output, I can definitely do, you know, the bilateral movement. But at the same time, they're punching, and so I'm going to want to do more of a Landmine University kind of style of rotational force.
Exactly.
Or I can use, you know, a what is it called, a med ball, and so I can really work on rotation, right?
Exactly.
There's what is the purpose and who is being applied to. If I want to get big, then I probably still want to be doing a bunch of dumbbells and you know, like, and then that will change the way the body's designed so that you can become stronger and more powerful. So like, it's important to have inside of the programming, but as you transition into these other cycles, maybe we kind of move away from those things. We get more specific, especially as we approach a specific event, right? So if you're a fighter, you have a day that you're set to fight, like that's competition day. Like there's a specific trajectory that you're looking at.
Right. And it goes back to giving awareness to individuals or clients per se, because people get into these things and are not aware of these things. You know what I mean? And they just get into it and start hating on other things and start having their own kind of group of people. And I'm like, bro, it don't work like that. Like I posted this not long ago, and it wasn't dissing a deadlift, but it was like, hey, if you don't have if you don't have an end goal as a power lifter or to get into like a competition who can deadlift the most, what does it relate to get into the gym and just deadlift? You know what I mean? And it goes back to, I was telling my wife, I'm like, look, man, as a kid, you're taught, right, by grown-ups, okay, don't touch that pot because that pot is hot, right? And then the moment you're like, no, I want to touch it, I want to touch it. And the moment you touch it, it sends these neural connections into your brain. You're like, oh my gosh, that's hot. It burned me. I'm not touching that again. You know what I mean? And sometimes I tell these other trainers, and like I said, I'm not here to like this, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to put like awareness. I'm like, if you have client that's been complaining about her back, we go through this process, right? Okay, deadlift that. And she's like, oh, my back is hurting. Oh, you know what? For this week, we'll just lay off of the deadlift. But then when she gets better, right? She go through this process where she see a chiropractor, a massage therapist, or a PT, she gets better. You go back to this process where, okay, I'm ready now. Let's touch the hot pot again. You know what I mean? Let's go back to the deadlift and let's increase progressive load again so you can get hurt again. And then you go through this process of going it over and over and over again. And I'm like, when are you going to start touching the hot pot, bro? You know what I mean?
I have a bias to the deadlift, right?
Yeah.
And so we have 4 fundamental movements, right? And one of those is going to be a hinge. And so if I have a loaded hinge, which is ultimately a deadlift, and I could do it in a controlled way, maybe I think a lot of times it's just not coached appropriately.
Right.
And so if you don't know how to teach the movement and then you're having somebody do it and then they get injured,
right.
Well then, because that's not the client's fault. It's not the movement's fault. It's the coach's fault for not knowing how to teach it.
No, but what I'm saying, I think you're kind of misunderstanding where I'm trying to go, because I still do deadlift myself. But with those people that go crazy heavy, you know what I mean? But they don't have an end goal to compete. You know what I'm saying? They're just trying to deadlift because they want to look like they're lifting heavy weights, but there's no purpose behind it. Because you could get effective with just doing a certain weight that's not going to injure you and focus on technique or focus on eccentric 3-to-1 count, or you know what I mean? What am I trying to say?
You're talking about like ego lifting. Is kind of the thing. Okay,
you know
Well, we probably shouldn't promote ego lifting. 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's people in the gym that, like I said, I'm not here to diss the lifts because I still do deadlifts. But there's people that just go to the gym and that's all they do. Yeah. They load up the plates, and then boom. Or trainers that just do that to their clients. But bro, like, your client's not trying to be a power lifter.
Yeah.
Their goal is to have good physique, but there's other ways of accomplishing that. You know what I mean? Or there's other ways of making them do something else that's going to make their life better. You know what I mean? But now, for someone like you, maybe you know the technique well, you can increase the weight like that. So you can do it. You know what I mean? So like, that's where I'm trying to go, like, right? Like, we're not trying to get to that point, or I'm at that point no more, where what is lifting for? What is fitness? What is health and journey for? Is it to make you better outside of here? Or are you treating it in a competition way? Now, if you're treating it in a competition way, and it's so go at it. Because in order to accomplish and be the best, you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit of muscle tear and muscle, you know what I mean? You're going to have to sacrifice sometimes some back pains. That's just how the game goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have one of the world's strongest men working at our gym, Mark Felipe, and he says, man, you'll have to sacrifice. You know, like somebody like Ronnie Coleman, now he has like how many hip surgeries because of but look at what he's accomplished. You know what I mean?
I think most of his back is unfortunately fused, which is a terrible. And there's a trade-off, right? And so understanding that there's a why. What's the purpose of you training a specific movement is kind of what I hear from you. So like, if I want progressive overload and I want to, if I want to thicken up somebody's their bone structure, then maybe like adding some. It's necessary to add load. Like I need to lift
bone
heavy.
Density, you mean, right?
If I'm looking to increase bone density, like I have to increase overall external load, right? And so like understanding the purpose of why, right?
Of why, or what is my end results? You know what I'm saying? So when I posted that online, I got a whole bunch of like, this and that, you're talking nonsense. And I was like, bro, I'm not here to diss the deadlift. You know what I mean? And I forgot who's the guy that like did a podcast on it, and he was like a power lifter or something like that. But I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at is just becoming more aware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's important. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people, man, even at the gym nowadays that go in there and doesn't have the knowledge. You know what I mean? And they just go in there and they get hurt, and then they blame fitness for it. But you know what I mean? But like, bro, like just like anything, you know what I mean? Like if we stay away from it, we're never gonna get anywhere. But if we get too much of it, it becomes detrimental. So I guess finding that middle point and knowing your place, right? Like if you want to accomplish this, okay, go ahead, man. You know what I mean? If that's your thing, that's your thing. And it goes back to saying when we're taught physical education and strength and conditioning in high school, as far as I could remember, it was based off bodybuilding. It was based off Olympic lifts. You know what I mean? It was based off powerlifting. It was never based off of athletic-based training or what people call now hybrid training, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, become the fittest man in the world and you'll have to be a bodybuilder. But some bodybuilders are some of the most unhealthiest people, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess I'm not coming off as dissing. I want to give awareness. You know what I mean?
I think being an athlete is unhealthy inherently. Yeah. If you're going to become a competitive athlete, right. You're going to have breakdown and like you're going to go through a lot. Being an athlete is maybe on the outside seen as like a cool or like quote unquote healthy trajectory, but in reality, it's really detrimental to the body. And it can only it's you know, if I'm driving my car at 140 miles an hour, my engine's going to be going at its peak for an extended period of time. Like it's going to break down.
Yes.
So it has a lifespan that it can only like realistically burn that fast or that hard at, right? And so it is not necessarily the healthiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so understanding like, again, the reason why or your purpose in the gym, and if it's not to be a competitive athlete, then making sure that you're just overall moving well, effectively, efficiently, maybe building on tissue, and improving overall quality of life is probably more than likely your why.
Yeah, and that's why I tell people all the time when they ask me like, "Hey, I want to be a fighter." I'm like, "Man, do you really want to be a fighter?" You know what I mean? Because that's a big challenge. You know what I mean? Same thing goes with anybody. Like CrossFitters, bro, that's a hard sport. You know what I mean? Anything you want, even to accomplish bodybuilding and have your pro card, bro, that's to diet and be on a calorie deficit for that long periods of time. It's not healthy, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I tell people all the time, like, that's different. You know what I mean? Now, if you just want to be healthy, then this is what you're going to get. But don't base your mindset or your thoughts off social media, what you see on social media. And that's another, again, storyline, right? Like, you know what I mean? You're going to look at that and you're like, oh, that's what fitness should look like. No, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want to help people, man. I want to help people become healthier through health and fitness, physically, you know, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and just overall personal development. I guess you could say that I'm slowly transitioning to that coach or trainer that, hey, I just want to help people become better people. You know what I mean?
That's cool, man. Well, I think that it's a beautiful place to end on. So where can people find you?
You can find me at, in my Instagram is Mark Tupas Strong, or you could check us out at Sin City Iron Gym as our cross street is Windmill and Eastern, and come through anytime, man. Also, my number is 808-258-6000. Text me anytime, man.
Beautiful. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank y'all. Love you. Bye.